I spent $30,000 on my first comedy feature and lost everything. Then I turned around and dropped another $30,000 on my second one. Comedy movies just haven't been the same since the 2000s, and instead of just sitting around complaining about it, I decided to make 2 of my own. If you feel like comedy movies just aren't funny anymore, you're not alone. But why would anyone keep throwing tens of thousands of their own dollars into a fire pit? It's because if we band together, we can bring comedy movies back. Stick around and I'll outline exactly how we can do it together as a community. Do you have a favorite comedy movie or a favorite comedy movie memory, maybe watching with family or friends? For me, it was during COVID that I really fell in love with comedy movies. Whether it was the American Pie series, Wedding Crashers, Role Models, EuroTrip, you name it. These movies are really what got me through the pandemic and the lockdowns. You know, I had never really watched the R-rated comedy movies because I had strict parents and wasn't allowed to growing up, and they really found me at the perfect time. Even as a child, I had a pretty dark childhood, and I know these aren't movies per se, but very much the same sense of humor. Sneaking around the house and watching Family Guy episodes, you know, probably started around the age of 8 or 9. I was a bit young, and some of the humor definitely went over my head, but these were definitely some of the fondest memories of my childhood, is just sitting there watching Family Guy and just laughing my ass off. I obviously didn't know this at the time, but my sense of humor was really being shaped through watching this show. So yeah, really just this style of comedy in general has definitely got me through some of the darker periods in my life. But what happened to comedy? I know you noticed these movies went away because they used to completely dominate the box office. In fact, I'm sure you have some really great memories going to watch these movies in the theaters with your friends. In fact, let me know in the comments down below, what was your favorite theatrical experience watching a comedy movie? For me, 2 really come to mind. It was either Ted 2, watching it as a 16-year-old. We had to go to the one movie theater in town that didn't card, and that movie was just so funny. That was such a great experience with friends. And then a little bit more recently, it was either 2018, 2019, watching Blockers. I went by myself, but watching it in just a crowded theater and just everyone laughing together is just such an amazing memory. But yeah, the 2000s were really the golden era for comedy movies. I mean, of course, we had Wedding Crashers, EuroTrip, Road Trip, the American Pie sequels, not to mention the Hangover. Oh my God, what a phenomenon that was. I mean, these movies were being pumped out left and right. But then around the mid-2010s, things really started to change. Political correctness really took center stage in the entertainment industry, and this style of humor was really phased out, even if audiences didn't see anything wrong with it. The funniest actors and the likes of Vince Vaughn, Sean William Scott, Ben Stiller just completely stopped getting cast. The funniest directors in Todd Phillips and Judd Apatow just stopped getting the opportunity to make movies. You know, the funniest writers as well. It's Scott Armstrong, Scott Moore, John Lucas, Seth MacFarlane. They were no longer getting the opportunity in the movie sphere. Put simply, the comedy movie genre is in a state of crisis. I mean, can you even name one good comedy that's come out this decade?
That's impossible.
But if you ever wanted something so bad in your life and you felt like the only way you could actually accomplish it was to take matters into your own hands, well, that's exactly what I did. Instead of just sitting there and crying about the lack of comedy movies being produced, I decided to try and be the change. And that was when I embarked on the journey of my first feature titled Rosetta Stone, which follows the story of Ryan, a senior in high school burnout, who agrees to get his autistic classmate Edward high in exchange for homework help, but realizes he's in for more than he bargained for when Edward makes advances at friendship. And like a sponge, I really took in all of the information I could with respect to filmmaking and writing comedy, directing comedy. I took Judd Apatow's masterclass. I watched every single YouTube video there was to watch with respect to making a micro-budget movie, how you would go about even doing such a thing. I had a mutual friend contact who worked at one of the major studios in Hollywood who donated a ton of his time on the phone with me, walking me through the process just because he loved film so much. So this was the summer of 2022, and I had the goal of shooting in the summer of 2023. And so, you know, I wrote out that first draft. Many rewrites later, you know, we cast the movie in the winter, and, you know, we made the movie. and it lives today. Just going through and actually making the movie and seeing it through, and that the movie didn't end up being a complete disaster, I saw as a pretty big win. I mean, if this sounds like something you might be interested in checking out, you can sign up on my email list at hometownsummer.com. I'll leave this link in the description and in the pinned comments, and I'll send you a free copy of Rosetta Stone to check out. But calling Rosetta Stone a flop wouldn't do it justice. The movie bombed. Like, lose everything you put into it financially kind of bomb. And I'm sure you can relate. Have you ever put your all into something just to come up short? But in the end, you grew in technical skills and you grew as a person. And that's exactly what happened with Rosetta Stone. All I wanted to do was to put out a 2000 style comedy in the 2020s, and I did just that. By the time the movie was released, I had already been casting for my second feature, Hometown Summer, which follows the story of three childhood best friends whose plan to attend the same college is thrown for a whirl in a summer filled with drugs, sex, and bad business decisions. And, I was so focused on Hometown Summer and the pre-production work that Rosetta Stone was very much so just an afterthought. And we actually shot this movie just last summer. The movie is actually set to premiere in Ann Arbor in May, and, by the time you watch this video, we actually might have a trailer out. If we do, I will definitely plug it in the description. But why? Why would I keep throwing money into a fire pit? We're really only one hit away from having a full-fledged comedy movie renaissance. For all intents and purposes, raunchy teen comedies were completely dead for almost 2 decades. And then American Pie came around, and it completely sparked the 2000s comedy movie renaissance and indirectly led to all of the classics that we know and love from the 2000s. And it'll happen again. I mean, something's got to give, and greener pastures are definitely ahead. And I want to be a part of it when the renaissance does happen. And this is not out of ego, but it's purely out of love and passion for the genre. I want to do whatever I can to make sure that we have great comedy movies going forward. So I'm very much so putting in the reps now with Rosetta Stone and then Hometown Summer, and then I have another script that's currently being written, and I want to make all these movies and get the kinks out. By the time we get this comedy movie revolution, I want to be at least at the beginning of the prime of my filmmaking career and be able to really give some strong contributions to the genre. It's not about making money now, and honestly, it'll never really be about money. But if at some point in my life I can make at least a comfortable living doing what I love, and that is writing, directing, and producing comedy movies, I can definitely be able to say that I have lived a fulfilled life. But we can all do our part. The number one thing you can do if you want to bring comedy movies back is to not only show up to theaters when these movies come out, but to bring your friends and to spread the word if you enjoy the movies. Box office numbers are literally everything. If a movie bombs at the box office, it's just dead. It really doesn't matter whatsoever what happens to it on streaming, because streaming really pays peanuts. For example, Amazon Prime pays as little as 1 cent per hour watched. So to put that into perspective, let's say a movie has a $20 million budget, 10 million people show up to watch it in theaters. That's roughly $120 million at the box office. After the distributor, exhibitor, theater fees, that comes back to about $60 million coming back to the filmmakers. That's a pretty healthy profit. But then say that same exact movie goes to Amazon Prime, and for the sake of the argument, we will say the movie is 90 minutes long, and every single person who watches the movie watches it in its entirety. 10 million people decide to watch this movie. At a rate of 1 cent per hour streamed, that comes back to a whopping total of $150,000. You would realistically need well over 1 billion people to watch this movie to make its budget back. So I seriously cannot stress enough just how important it is to actually show up to these movies and to bring your friends. If you miss the classic R-rated comedies starring Vince Vaughn or Ryan Reynolds, you're actually in luck, because this fall, Animal Friends, an R-rated comedy non-existing IP, is coming to theaters. If you loved the original Scary Movies that were written, directed, and produced by the Wayans brothers, you're actually in luck, because the Wayans brothers are coming together again to make the next installment in the Scary Movie series, and that too is coming to theaters next year. It's actually insane just how much one movie can change things. The industry jumps on trends like there's no tomorrow. Again, we are just one movie away. Together, we can signal to the market that the demand for comedy movies is very much still there, and we can bring forward a 2000-style comedy movie renaissance, paving the way for the next generation of great comedy movies. And I know you all have so many great memories getting together with your friends, whether it be in high school, college, or after then, laughing together in the theater at all of these great comedy movies. So let's not only give the opportunity to the next generation to create these great memories, but also to the generation after that. Because at the end of the day, there's really just nothing quite like enjoying a great comedy movie together in theaters. And if you love 2000s comedies, you might be surprised the extent to which the director of The 40-Year-Old Virgin and the director of The Hangover really dominated this decade of comedy. Because without them, we likely don't have many of your favorite movies or actors. And I break it all down here.